Our guest, Nathaniel Freitas, is a fellow at the Berkman Klein Center for the Internet at Harvard University. He's also a software guy, wrote a chat program we've talked about before, Chat Secure, based on XMPP, based on all open technologies using OTR. It supports all of the features you want, iPhone and Android. And actually, I note that Orbot is not iPhone. There are limits to what you can do on the iPhone.
Yeah, there is a partner Tor community project called Onion Browser that's available.
Okay.
And we're working with them to take it up a notch, and it's actually great. The developer's been charging for it, so he's been able to sustain himself. It's open source, so if you want to build it yourself, you can, but he does charge, I think, 99 cents. And it's actually been, paying his rent basically while he's doing it. But yes, you're right. The main difference between iOS and Android is that you can run Tor and build encryption and do all of these things on iOS, but it has to operate in a single process. It can't run in the background.
Right.
And so with Orbot, we can actually, it's more like Linux. You can start it up. It runs in the background. Apps like Facebook can tie into it, and our browser and the Twitter app.
So your browsing can all be through Tor, as if you had that's kind of the ideal way to do it. So
it's a VPN. It has a VPN feature that tunnels using the VPN. Through. And really, it's really just the first step. We're starting to do things like, use it to build like a Onion Drive, Onion Share kind of feature. So the idea of just browsing through it is one thing, but the idea of actually running services on your phone for synchronization, for sharing peer-to-peer through Onion addresses, there's so much that a phone can do. It's really amazing how much processing power and storage there are, and so we're definitely doing more with Orbot in the future.
Yeah, and after all, this is the main, now for almost everybody, this is their primary computing device. This is where they're getting online most of the time.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's important to pay attention to this. Why open source?
I have a personal answer and then a more strategic professional answer.
Okay.
When I've worked in mobile for a long time. The company I worked for in the late 90s in New York was the first BlackBerry reseller. In New York, I was a programmer then. I've created so much technology and so many apps. I started a company, Palm acquired us. And then when, Palm became sort of disinterested in mobile enterprise, secure enterprise, wireless communication, all of this intellectual property and contribution I had created to the world really was gone, was taken away from me, was stuck within the corporate environment. And I was paid. That's a fair exchange. But in many ways, I felt it was a disservice kind of to the state of the world, the state of security in mobile devices, because they did nothing with it, right? And I felt like this void of my life. Like, what did I do in that 10-year period, basically? So I sort of vowed never again to write code that was closed source, or that I couldn't get an open source license to reuse elsewhere. So it's more about what I want to do with my life and how I want to contribute. I think the second piece is that what we're finding is, obviously through things like GitHub, it's not just open source, it's also the community aspects of open source, right? And the collective building of things. So with the modular nature of programming, with social networks like GitHub essentially allowing you to find, what's the best code for this? What's the best code for this? And then it really just accelerates the process for building new technologies, so that we're not all reinventing the same routines and functions and methods over and over again. And so that's key as well. And then on the security front, the idea of security by obscurity, it's this weird intuition people have, like, isn't it better if we keep how we're doing security secret? Because then I have to figure it out first. And that's just so misaligned from the actual science of the way this goes, which is, even if your adversary knows how your encryption works, it still has to work. They still can't crack it even if they know how it works. And so the ability for open source technology to be transparent when it comes to security, and be audited and be shared and reused. So technologies like PGP, off-the-record encryption is key. And now, the axolotl, now libsignal protocol from Moxie and Trevor is key.
That's the one that WhatsApp and Facebook are now using.
Exactly. Well, and it's the new gold standard.
Yeah.
People are, So that right there shows both that, this is what we need to change. Like, I'm not creating a startup. I'm trying to influence the world
Right.
to veer towards a positive direction on security and privacy. And so is Moxie. And, we had 6 years ago, we both started tinkering around with Android, and I went kind of the Tor route and he went the messaging route. And it's amazing to see the impact that he and his team have been able to have. I mean, a billion people got end-to-end encryption instantly.
Like that.
Like that.
Isn't that amazing?
It's so cool.